Hey y'all, this is Sam from the Roots of Change Agency, and today my dog and I are in Nashville, Tennessee. We are traveling the country to expose what the media doesn't talk about, which is what's really happening in this country. We have already been in El Paso, we've been in Austin, we've been on indigenous reservation territory in Arizona and New Mexico. We were at the Cesar Chavez Monument in California. We've been in Oklahoma, and we are now heading east. But what I wanted to share is tease out that we are going on this trip. So if you want to get the full exposure of how our trip and all of the things that we are learning, and also the past that is coming back to me. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, around many of the current authoritarians who are making the decisions in our government. So I really understand how the authoritarian style right-wing think, but I also really understand just people. I understand the southern aspect, the western, like people in the West, people in California, people on the East Coast. You know, we're all made up of humans. And we're all very complex, and we're also very simple. And so what I want to do is really talk about that and expose, you know, all of the different experiences that I have with people every single day that people don't normally get exposure to. So we are going to be on this trip. We're going to be digging into the tech issues. We're going to be digging into white supremacy and the history of this country. We're going to be talking about indigenous rights and land rights and the agriculture and the climate and the ecosystem that we are all living in. I'm really excited. It's been a very fun and illuminating trip. And I just am excited to share more with you about what we're learning. Before we do that, I did want to reshare one of our more popular podcast episodes because the economics of it all is really hitting right now. And we released that podcast, I don't know, in March, I think, to be honest, I can't remember. We released that because of what was coming. And so now we are really experiencing that economic reality that I was talking about in the podcast, particularly with the new big, beautiful bill that was passed. You know, people are going to lose their health care. People are going to fall through the cracks. People are already falling through the cracks. So many people have fallen through the cracks. The amount of unhoused folks that I have met on this trip is astounding, but also not surprising to me as someone who has been living in the Bay Area for some time. This is real. This is what's really happening. So we're going to play that episode for you today. Next week we have an awesome episode with Sharon Hurley Hall where we talk about Substack and creative writers and independent creators and how we can secure our content and our data and support our audiences better. And then we're going to get out on the road and talk about these things. So very excited for you to come on the road with me and with Bear, who is very also excited to get out on the road because he is very sleepy and he will be napping. Hey y'all, this is Sam from the Roots of Change podcast, and today you just have me on because there is a lot going on in the world. I wanted to take a second and just talk about what's going on in the world and really level set about what is actually real and how we as regular people move in this world. Because we are seeing right now that we do not have leadership. Leadership is gone, if we ever had it, really. The Democrats are not able to act in this moment, and I'm going to talk about why. Our economic leaders are not able to act in this moment, and I'm going to talk about why. And our movements, frankly, are not able to act in this moment because of all of these other pieces. And I'm going to talk about why economics and capitalism is at the root of all of this. And it's not that capitalism is the answer. It's that white supremacist capitalist patriarchy and all of the influences of empire are shaping why this is happening right now. So I want to first just start and reflect and say, I'm recording this on March 21st, and about a week ago, on March 13th, I woke up very sad, and I did not talk about it, but I do want to talk about it now, and I want to say her name, and I want to say that I woke up thinking about Breonna Taylor on March 13th, and I do every March 13th. Because Breonna Taylor was a Black woman who was murdered in her bed by the police in 2020, I believe. And that is the crux of why we are here right now. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, like all of these people, the Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement, the uprisings of 2020 are exactly why we are in this moment. And I think we need to level set on that, because the media is going to distract us. The Democrats who do not want the left to succeed are going to distract us. And our financial systems are not going to support us because they are not designed to support us. They are designed under capitalism. So they are designed to do exactly what they're doing right now, which is to still attempt to hoard and build wealth for the wealthy. And so what I wanted to talk about today is the economics of it all, because we are seeing all of the things that Donald Trump and the new administration and the Doge Bros and the felons of it all are throwing at us. They are destroying the Department of Education. They are dismantling the rule of law. They are kidnapping green card owners, citizens, immigrants, right? All of the things. It doesn't matter. They are doing and pursuing their ultimate goals, which is to get us back to resegregation, to get us back to a world of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, all the way back to chattel slavery. And we are already in that. They are already building the mechanisms for that. We look at the grants pass ruling from the Supreme Court last year that criminalized homelessness. Well, what happens when you criminalize homelessness? Well, when you start to create a system where everyone is economically precarious and everyone can fall through the cracks, any one of us can lose our jobs and become homeless overnight.
I live in the Bay Area. I see it every single day, and it is crushing to walk by people who are unhoused out of no fault of their own, and to see the loss in their eyes and the hopelessness because our systems aren't supporting them. And that's why we have to do the little stuff every single day, because I don't have the money. I don't have millions of dollars to give to unhoused people and to give them the homes that they deserve. But what I have is my humanity. I have myself, and I can give them the humanity that they deserve.
And so that's why we have to do the little work every single day to crack this system. And so I'm going to get to that in a second. But when we get to the grants pass ruling, when you criminalize homelessness, we have a housing crisis. People are falling through the cracks. And then you sweep those people up into prisons, then they go into prison labor. And who is profiting from prison labor? Some of our biggest brands are profiting from prison labor. McDonald's is profiting. Probably the goods in your home are from prison labor and you don't even know it. And that's by design. That is by design. And so we are looking at all of these things, and they are moving really quickly to make sure that we can get into resegregation as quickly as possible and lock that in. And that is extremely important because we have to talk about this in the real terms. We have to live in reality. And the problem with the 2024 election is that most people were not living in reality. And I get that as a regular person. It is really hard to live in reality right now. But as a leader, the Democratic Party did not live in reality. The Democratic Party said, it's fine, the economy is fine for them, for their stock portfolio, not for the people that they are letting fall through the cracks and not actually solving the systemic problems that we all need to solve. And we all want to solve. Most of us in this world want to solve the climate crisis. It's just the actual act of getting there within the systems that we've built, because these systems are not ready or wanting to solve these problems. So I say all of that, and then I want to talk about the Federal Reserve and their comments this week. So this past Wednesday, which Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve came out to talk about the economy, stocks, and interest rates. And what they decided with the Federal Reserve is to hold interest rates steady. And that is kind of good news, because we don't want the interest rates to go up, because that means they're really concerned about the economy. But ideally, if we were living in a regular economy and, a Kamala Harris had won and they kind of continued the Biden economy, they probably would be talking about lowering interest right now, which would be helping to juice the economy. It would help small businesses. It would help people who have loans. It would help people who have mortgages. But they can't do that right now because of Trump and the tariffs and the chaos that Musk and everyone is causing in the economy. Because even if you don't own stocks, you know that the stock market is in free fall. It's constantly going down every single day. There might be like a day where it's like, whoop, no. We are back in the pandemic days where it is in free fall, and everyone in the stock market is freaking out, because we have to remember, who are the people who are investing in the stock market? It's all of the 1%. And again, they are not living in reality. And so they are freaking out because they have assumed that they were going to get Trump 1.0, but they got fascist Trump. And so now Trump is trying to resegregate the economy and bully all of our neighbors so that he can look tough. And that's all it is. It's all so he can look tough. It has nothing to do with the economy or anything. Like, he is going to crash us into the economy. And I think, here's the thing, I think Jerome Powell knows that. And that's why it's really important when we listen to the words of Chuck Schumer, Jerome Powell, whatever the guy's name from Chase Bank is, they all use these words to obfuscate from what they're actually saying. So Jerome Powell said, we're not going to lower interest rates, we're going to keep them steady, and that's fairly good. We are seeing this slower growth in the economy because of higher inflation, because of the Trump tariffs, but don't worry, guys, we think it's transitory. This uncertainty, it's transitory. It's only a mere blip on the economic radar. We'll recover so quickly, don't you worry. That is complete crap. Like, let's be real. That is as if we were in this little bubble and Trump just stopped being Trump after a while. That's not going to happen. We are going to continue to have economic uncertainty because the entire plan is to crash people out of the economy by firing federal workers, by shifting DEI. They want Black and brown people to be at the bottom of the economic ladder again. They want women out of leadership, and they're going to do everything they can to get there. And so we have to be aware of that. And then on the other side, we have the 1% who, they're not on board with this plan. They voted for Trump, or they didn't push the threat that they could have. They haven't been honest, and we're seeing the repercussions of that. And so they aren't really living in reality. And so they're going to be making decisions that aren't going to be the best decisions for this moment, because there's still this, well, maybe it'll change. Maybe. We have to live in reality. We have to know what the administration is doing, why they're doing it, and how we then respond. And that's where we as regular people need to come together. We need to talk about community. We keep talking about community here, and I talk about it because it is the root. It is what we absolutely need right now, because we don't have the leaders that are there to support us. Chuck Schumer is not going to make sure that we have money in our bank account and food in our pantry. That's what we have to do. And so, I think we really need to think about how are we going to push the levers of power to fight back against this. And we have to do that by living in reality and then pushing on the little pinpoints that kind of prick at that reality. So one of those things is pushing cognitive dissonance. There are so many people that are not living in reality. A lot of liberals are really confused right now. It's really jarring. I can totally understand right now how terrifying it is, because it actually is. It really is. And it's hard, you want to downplay that, but that's where we are. And so we need to move in that direction and understand that we're in this really hard time, and that's where we have to lock in. We have to come together. We have to recognize that there are more of us than there are of them, and that we can move in lockstep and we can stop these guys. When we look at activism, there's so much performative activism going on. There's online warriors, there is rah-rah signs, protests, and I get it. We need energy, we need to get excited about where we are moving, because these guys are scared. The only reason that they are going full fascism right now is because they are terrified of us. They know that this country is becoming non-white. That is exactly why Donald Trump came into the scene in the first place. The fear of the white replacement is real, not because some immigrants are coming into the country and there's some conspiracy theory, but because we're all just regular people and we fall in love with different people. I am a white Latina. I'm indigenous. I'm Two-Spirit. We are all this melting pot that we used to talk about. And we need to get back to that. We need to deepen into who we each are and find that beauty in difference and find that beauty in solidarity, because those two things can coexist. And I think that we live in this world where complexity is so hard because the internet and everything has us looking at these two-dimensional walls. We live in platforms. We live in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and we don't get out of those platforms because they don't want us to. But that's where we break the walls. We break those boundaries and we come together. But we have to do that by working on ourselves, because there is a lot of harm that is happening in this world right now. And there's always harm in this world because of these forces. But we have to recognize who our enemies are. And our enemies are the systems that keep subjugating all of us. They keep trapping every single one of us in a box. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your skin color is. This world tells us who we have to be. They tell us what our gender is. They tell us what our job is, our role in society is. And I reject that. Because we are all beautiful creatures made of multitudes. We are creative, we are imaginative, we are fun, and they are trying to take that away from us. They're doing that with AI. Go read our series on AI, seriously. We need to start educating ourselves about why they are doing these things and how we push back. Because if they don't want us to be creative, well then I'm gonna be creative. If they don't want me, if they want to put me into a box of what womanhood is, then I'm going to break that box. And that's what we all have to do. We have to break our little boxes in different ways. How is the patriarchy trapping you? How is white supremacy trapping you? How is capitalism trapping you? We do that, and we love ourselves, we love our communities, and we just work a little bit every single day to build that solidarity, to deepen our ties, to deepen what solidarity means in this moment. It does not mean that we stand next to each other in a protest and we walk. It means that I put my body on the line when my neighbor is trying to be deported by ICE. It means that I cook a meal for my friends who just lost their job. And it means that I am a loving embrace for a trans friend who is terrified about what their future holds. These are all things that we can do every single day. And I think we lose sight of that. We lose sight of what activism really is. Activism is not marching in the streets. Activism is not voting. It's not calling fucking Nancy Pelosi every day for her to ignore me. It is connection. It is solidarity. It is community. It is building the world that they don't want us to build. Because I know we can build that world, because I'm doing it. I'm doing it with my friends, and it's beautiful. And I know that you probably are too, just in really small ways, because it feels impossible right now. We're trapped in these walls. We're trapped in these platforms, these online silos. But we can break these walls. And so that is what I have to say today. I have a lot more to share, and I will be sharing more. We are going to be doing so many more podcasts. I just am bursting with things that I want to talk about. So we'll be having a ton of different guests on talking about trans rights, the current patriarchal laws that are being enacted. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to get into global politics and all of the kind of Russian oligarchy and how that has seeped into our world over the decades. We're going to talk about Reagan. We are going to talk about the climate crisis and how we can do little things. And then we're going to talk about organizing, and we're going to talk about love and justice and solidarity. And we are going to do this together. So I hope you follow, I hope you listen, and if you really like what you're listening to, please upgrade, become a seedling member, listen to our private podcast. It goes such a long way. We are competing against the Peter Thiels of the world. We are competing against OpenAI and all of their slop, and they have billions of dollars. So please donate $5, become a member, become a supporter, and I will see you next week